Hashtag recovery season. I also think my lung collapsed. You need to go to the ER right now. Hey guys, so today's video is going to be a little bit different. I am going to be telling the story of the time my lung collapsed and I had to get bilateral lung surgery. I have notes here to help me. So my intentions with this video is basically to help anyone who's going through a similar situation. One of the first things I did when I was in the hospital with a collapsed lung was look up videos on YouTube of lung collapse to see if anyone had like stories to share, because I was just looking for any sort of comfort because I felt very alone because I had no idea what was going to happen. But I couldn't find any videos, and the videos I did find were like doctor videos, and it was just freaking me out even more. I'm just putting this video out there to hopefully help anyone who's going through the same thing that I did because it was scary, and I will be inserting pictures and videos throughout the video as best as I can. Rewind to my junior year of high school. This was January 2018. I had just gotten off of Christmas break, and my high school was weird. We had finals after Christmas break. It was finals week. The Monday of finals week, I had one final, and then my brother and my mom and I went out to lunch. Afterwards, my brother made me laugh, and I was laughing and I felt this like ping. Like, it was, that's all I can describe, like a ping in my chest, like a ping. And I didn't know what it was, but I didn't think anything of it. I started feeling chest pain, and I was telling my mom and my brother, and we all just thought it was acid reflux from eating. Then we went to the grocery store and my brother and I waited in the car. I might have videos from that. If I do, I'll insert them here. Nothing was out of the ordinary. We were just waiting in the car. We get home. My mom tells me to take some antacids to help with the acid reflux. Nothing is helping. We just kind of don't make a big deal out of it. When I go to bed, I had to sit up. I propped myself up because it hurt too much to lay down on my back. I don't know, I didn't think anything of it. I just thought it was stress. I thought it was acid reflux, but we know now that it was not. So that was Monday. Tuesday, the pain was still there. I took my final. Wednesday, I took a physics final, and I had actually made a video, like a flipagram that I posted to my Finsta, saying, like, joking around, being like, I just failed my physics test. I feel like my lung collapsed. So I basically predicted that my lung collapsed. Weird, freaky coincidence. I predicted that my lung collapsed before I knew what had actually happened, so I'll insert that video here. I think my lung collapsed. My lung. It collapsed, I think. My jaw hurts a lot because I was clenching it the whole time I was taking my physics final, which, you know, I bombed. Did I tell you that I think my lung collapsed? My brother came into my room and crumbled a flower onto my floor. I think I broke a rib. My room is a disaster area. It's finals week. I also think my lung collapsed. Thursday was our last day of finals. I got home and then I was just talking with my mom, and I was basically saying that the pain was still there. I didn't understand why, and in certain positions, like bending over or something, I would feel like this like crunchy feeling. That's all I can describe it as. Just this crunchy feeling in my chest. So she called the doctor's office, she told them what was happening, she described this crunchy feeling. Everyone was pretty confused, but they just recommended coming in just in case. That was Thursday, so we made an appointment for Friday. Friday, I didn't have any finals. Also, this is just like a weird fact. Looking back on it, I see it's like a big deal. Every morning that week, I would have to sit down while I was brushing my teeth because I would get so winded. And I didn't think anything of it. I just thought I was tired. I thought I was stressed out. I thought I wasn't getting enough sleep because it was finals week. But my lung was collapsed. Anyway, Friday, no finals, so my family and I go out and go bowling. So we went bowling before my doctor's appointment, and then my mom and I were on the way to the doctor, and in the car I remember saying, you know what, I'm feeling better, I don't think we need to go to the doctor, like I really don't feel anything anymore. And my mom's like, ah, we might as well just go, we're on our way. And it's a good thing we went. When we got to the doctor, I might have been 16. So I was still going to a pediatrician. So she just listened to my lungs with her stethoscope, was like, She noticed a difference between my right and left lung. She ordered some chest x-rays. We were waiting in this room after the x-rays for the results. My doctor comes bursting through the door and says, you need to go to the ER right now. And obviously, started freaking out a little bit, which was not good considering I had a collapsed lung. She proceeded to say, your lung is collapsed, you have a pneumothorax. And pneumothorax just means lung, it's a term for lung collapsations. Obviously I started like freaking out. I started hyperventilating, which was not good considering my situation. She said that my right lung was functioning at 40% capacity, and she didn't understand how I went this long without noticing, because normally people notice right away. The doctors and us kind of attributed that to the fact that I'm a swimmer, so I have a bigger lung capacity than most people. I've been competitively swimming since I was 5, so I have like higher tolerance for not breathing, I guess. She actually said that if I had waited any longer, my heart could have started moving, because you know, everything is floating in this cavity. Everything's kind of floating, I guess. If I had waited any longer, because my lung was collapsing so far, my heart could have started moving. So that is kind of a life or death situation there, and I'm really glad I went to the doctor. Quick correction. My heart would not have started moving. My mom just pointed this out to me. Because it was collapsed, the other stuff in the cavity would start pushing against my heart or something. Something weird that would affect my heart and could be fatal if I had gone any longer. So, that's what I was trying to say. My heart would not have started moving. Don't come after me, please. Okay, bye. She tells us we have to go to the ER right now. My mom was like, can we at least go home and get her some clothes? And my doctor was like, hurry up. We actually stopped back at my house because the hospital is like 45 minutes, 30 minutes away from us. We go to the ER. We are at the front desk, and the lady asked for my name, and then she asked why I'm here, and I said pneumothorax. And she was just typing, and then she kind of, when I said pneumothorax, she looked up and she was like, oh, they'll be right with you. And then the second, like, she pushed like a button and the doors flew open. It's like a movie. The doors flew open, people came out and were like, let's take you back here. I was standing, I was walking on my own, everything seemed fine to me. So then I go into an ER room. My lung was so collapsed, they had to insert a chest tube. It's a 12-inch long tube that's like probably that big. They insert it to the side of my chest, basically pump up my lung. By the time I was admitted to the ER, I had to wait 2 hours before they could do that because of how recently I had eaten. They ask how recently you've eaten because the medicine they use could make you throw up if you've eaten recently. The ER doctor had been telling me, he was like, it's only gonna take like 5 minutes. It's a simple procedure. You'll be fine. We're gonna have you on heavy numbing pain, stuff like that. I'm just gonna tell you now, that was the worst part of everything, was getting a chest tube inserted while I was awake. So they literally cut an incision into your side and put a tube into your lung while you're awake. So they have the area numbed and everything, but obviously you're gonna feel some stuff. I was like, why can't you put me to sleep during this? And he was saying that in order for me to be asleep, they would have to breathe for me, and because of my lung situation, that just wouldn't work out. The next best option was they put me in the twilight zone, basically. So they give me as much medicine as I can. It's like the brink before you fall asleep. So I was just kind of like, very like, yeah, because I had an IV in. They kept putting in dosages of the medicine, and I was just like, they're like, can you feel anything? And I was just like, no. But then eventually I was kind of like, you know, like that in my twilight zone or whatever. So I had to sit like this or lay back like this. My mom was in the room. She could have left the room because obviously this is a surgery or like a procedure, so I don't know. But she was in the room, she was here, I was laying down, there was a doctor behind me, a doctor there, and the guy sitting here putting a tube into my side. And so I just remember fading in and out of the twilight zone because it hurt like hell. It hurt so bad. So I was crying, and I was just like asking my mom, I was like, is it in yet? Is it in yet? It was just a very painful thing. And I'm still kind of pissed off that he lied to me about how it would hurt, because he was making it seem like it was not gonna hurt at all. I had no idea what it was gonna be, and he was telling me that it was gonna be like 5 minutes. The whole procedure I think took like 10 to 20 minutes, honestly. I think that's what I was told. It was in. After it was in, there's just like this constant, like, you can feel that it's in there, you know? It was not nearly as bad as when they were trying to insert it. Having it in there was like, you can just feel it. It's like a kind of a pressure. After a while, you get used to it. My right lung is starting to inflate again. The doctor starts talking to my mom, and then he tells me that through the x-rays, it looks like I might have these things called blebs. Blebs, B-L-E-B, are balloon-like tissues on your lungs, or like little bubbles that kind of form on your lungs. When one of them pops, your lung collapses. People who get blebs are typically tall, skinny people, and a lot of them are males, and it usually happens from like 15 to your early 20s. So he thought I might have these because from the x-ray, it looked like I had little dots on my lungs. But I had to get a CT scan, I think it was, or maybe a CAT scan, in order for them to identify if they were blebs or not. After the scan, they found out that I do have blebs. So my mom pointed out a few things to me, one of which being that my left lung was also collapsed. My right lung was the one that was collapsed by 60%, but my left lung was also collapsed by 10 to 15%. And that picture is a picture of a humongous bleb on my left lung that was ready to pop, so it's a good thing that I had my surgery when I did. What that meant was I might need surgery. I ended up getting admitted to the PICU. I am 18 now, just so you know. I'm a freshman in college, so it'll be almost 2 years this January. The next morning, we were scheduled to meet with the cardiothoracic surgeon. So Saturday morning, we meet with the cardiothoracic surgeon. She comes to my room. She's super nice, super sweet, but she tells me that I have two options. I could wait for my lung to fill back up, and once it was full again and normal, I could just leave the hospital and wait for it to happen again, because the blebs were still there, and that meant that it could collapse at any moment again. Or I could have a surgery that would cut off all the blebs from my lungs, but the thing about blebs is that you can't just cut them off and then they'll be gone forever. They grow back. So they would cut them off, and then they would use certain methods to basically glue my lungs to my chest cavity, so as to prevent, when a bleb does come back, to prevent the lung from collapsing all the way, because it would be glued to my chest cavity. Obviously, although surgery is scary, that just made more sense because I wasn't just gonna leave the hospital and wait for this to happen again. So we opted for the surgery. That was probably one of the scariest moments, was just realizing I was gonna have to have surgery. So I was sitting with my mom for a long time, talking with her, crying, you know. And then we were contacting all of my friends and family. So all of Saturday, I was getting like x-ray. Every few hours I would get a new scan or x-ray. So all of Saturday, a few of my friends visited. Shout out to Mackenzie, Genevieve, Brianna, Cassie, Julia. They all visited me while I was in the hospital, and that just meant the world to me. But unfortunately, my younger brother could not come into the hospital because this was happening during flu season, and they couldn't admit anyone under 18 years old. So I could not see my little brother this whole time.
No, you change. You'll never take me alive. You'll never take me alive. You'll never take me alive. I don't want you.
My surgery is going to be tomorrow morning, Sunday morning. The waiting is the worst part, really. All of Saturday was kind of filled with a lot of worry, but it was really great to hear from all my friends and get visits and stuff like that. That was awesome. Saturday night was probably the most stressful night of my life because my mom, she slept in the room with me. She slept on the couch. She was in the room with me. We were watching movies and eating, but at like, I forgot what time it was, but I had to stop eating because of the surgery. And I just remember kind of staring up at the lights and like in this grim hospital room, just like by myself. My mom's asleep, laying in my bed, just kind of, I felt super alone. I didn't know anyone else who this had happened to, and I just didn't know what to expect. And it was like a major surgery. It's in your thoracic cavity, which is, it holds your heart, it holds your lungs, it holds vital organs. So it was just a lot of thoughts going through my head that night. I barely got any sleep. But eventually I fell asleep, and then I was awoken in the morning. I forget what time it was. They start prepping me for surgery. I'm rolled to the pre-op room. I also forgot to tell you, my doctor, my surgeon, she told me I was probably going to wake up with a burning sensation in my chest. They were going in microscopically. So they in total made 6 incisions, 3 on each side. Bear with me here. 2 from either chest tube on either side. So I already had a chest tube here, and during surgery they were going to insert another chest tube into my left lung. So that's 2 incisions. And then they were going to make another 2 incisions on either side. So my scars, I have scars, but they're very small, which is great. But basically, they were going to go in and they were going to cut off my blebs, and then they were going to take a drug-using chemotherapy and kind of pour that into me. This drug would roughen up my skin so that it would glue to my chest cavity. These are called adhesions. She told me when I was gonna come out of surgery, I was gonna have these tubes, my chest tubes. Like, the tubes were going to be filled with red Kool-Aid is what she called it, which was basically the chemotherapy drug and adhesions and blood coming out of my lungs, which was great, but just call it red Kool-Aid and you're fine. So I'm rolled into the pre-op room. I remember talking to the anesthesiologist, and he told me what he was going to do. He said he was going to be breathing for me. He said he was going to put a tube down my throat to breathe for me, and so he said that I might wake up with a little bit of a dry throat. This part was honestly way less scary than the chest tube insertion. Let me tell you something about anesthesia. It is amazing. We get rolled into my operating room, and the doctor, my surgeon, is talking to me. She's like, tell me about where you want to go on vacation. So I'm just talking, and then they put the drug into my IV, and I'm talking, and suddenly I'm awake in the post-op room. Anesthesia works so that, like, time doesn't pass. It's weird. So, like, they had been working on me, I forgot how long, how many hours, but it didn't seem like anything to me. It just felt like a nice nap. Oh, here's another thing. In the operating room, when they rolled me in, they were playing Taylor Swift. I don't know how they knew, but I am a Swiftie. I love Taylor Swift, and they were playing Endgame by Taylor Swift in the operating room. Fell asleep to that, and so I woke up in the post-op room thinking about Taylor Swift. I just remember laying there and like kind of waking up, and like the nurse walking back and forth and doing stuff with my charts, and I was just like, do you like Taylor Swift? And she was like, what? No. And I was like, ugh. I was so disgusted, but I was so high. So then they're rolling me into this hallway to go back to my room at the PICU, and I see my mom and dad in the hallway, and I flash them a peace sign, which has become a legendary symbol around my house. It's just like, peace out. So I flash them a peace sign as I'm like with my eyes half open, like as I'm getting rolled back into my room. My dad, that was a huge thing for him because he was really stressed out during the surgery. So when I came out and flashed a peace sign, it was like very meaningful. So it's a really big thing between him and I that we do. So I ended up making him this peace sign of my own hand. I casted it. See the similarities? And I wrote the date of my surgery on it. Hashtag recovery season. Yay! I got leg squeezers. Whoa. I got 2 tubes coming out of me. And some scarring on my lungs. But I made it. Thank you to everyone for supporting me. Love you. After that, everything's a little bit fuzzy because I was still coming off of the anesthesia, and then I was given morphine to deal with my pain and stuff. Here's another little tidbit. I was having a reaction to something. I forget what it was. It wasn't anything big, but I was getting little hives on here, so I was also on Benadryl, which also knocks you out. So I was just in a constant state of like tiredness, and then I just kind of remember waking up sometimes, then going back to sleep, and waking up, going back to sleep. But then I also remember waking up and just sitting up and saying, I have to go pee. And the nurse was like, whoa, slow down, slow down. And I swing my legs over the side of my bed, and I'm like, ow. And I like try to stand up, and I cannot stand up. And she's like, slow down. So then I'm back in my bed. During this time I have a button. It's like this little green button, and every time I press it I get a dose of morphine. And so every time it lights up, it means I can get another dose. During this time, my family's like, what do you want to eat? You can have anything you want to eat. So we got noodles, we got McDonald's, we got all this stuff. But obviously my appetite was not here. So I would have a bite and I'd be like, ugh. All my favorite food, and I couldn't eat it. Ugh, so sad. I'm gonna be honest. So it wasn't like this burning pain she told me I was gonna feel. It felt like pressure, I guess. But yeah, I had the Kool-Aid coming out of my tubes into these containers. So every time I needed to use the bathroom, I would need like a team to help me get up because I had so many things connected all over, like my IV, all these cords that could not get tangled up. Then I can't remember how soon they were trying to get me to walk. It might have been Monday. I would go on a walk down the hallway and back, and that was just, it was just like a very humbling moment to realize that I had to I didn't have to learn how to walk again, but I was like, I had to get used to walking again. It was weird. I had to get used to walking again, which did not take that much time at all. I just went on like 3 walks total, and by the end I was like, yeah, I was cruising by the end. As soon as like the Kool-Aid was done draining and my x-rays were normal, they had to remove the chest tubes. That's like the easiest process. Everyone had assured me that this was the easiest part, and it really was. What they have you do is they take off all the bandages surrounding it that like keep it in place. They have you breathe in as much as you can, and then when you're here, they say exhale. They're like, exhale for as long as you can. So you exhale, and during that time they're just pulling out the chest tube from you, and it's just like, and it's out. Simple as that. So then they bandaged me up. I was released the day after that, I think. Because my lung collapsed on that Monday of finals week, this one doctor I had kept joking, saying, not even joking, he was dead serious, saying, I will write you a note to retake all your finals if you want, because there was very little oxygen going to your brain. And after very short consideration, I said, no thank you, because I would not want to retake my finals, especially that physics final. I ended up doing fine on them. Once I got home, I think I was home for like a week before I went back to school. They were just telling me to take it easy. They sent me home with one of those breathing thingies that like you blow into to try to get your lung strength back up. Yeah, that's what they had me do after surgery, was they use this thingy to blow into to try to get your lung strength back up and normal. Okay, the scariest part of this whole thing was that my main question was, how can I tell if this happens again? Even with all these preventative measures, it could happen again. They basically told me that it was up to me. I would feel it. I would use my best judgment to tell whether or not my lung had collapsed. And that really freaked me out, considering I didn't realize my lung was collapsed for 5 days. So I was a little bit paranoid, I guess you could say, after my procedure. So I was home for like 2 or 3 days, and then I started feeling pain in my chest. Obviously that means my lung collapsed. That was sarcasm. I was being a little bit paranoid, which I had the right to be so, because that was kind of a traumatic event, and I just was really scared it was gonna happen again. And if it did happen again, I wanted to catch it early because I didn't want anything bad to happen. So we drove all the way back to the hospital. I got scans, I got x-rays. All this waiting is the worst part. So we were waiting for a long time, and then we finally get the x-rays, and we're waiting for another long time. And I'm like freaking out this whole time. My mom's like, it's okay, like she's trying to calm me down. And the nurse comes back, she's like, you're fine. I'm just gonna say that happened a lot. The year following my procedure, I went to the doctor a lot to get x-rays, because I was convinced that my lung collapsed. I would get these feelings like my lung had collapsed again. Some of those times a bleb could have popped again, but obviously my lung was fine, nothing collapsed again. But a bleb could have popped and I was just feeling that pain of it popping, but my lung wouldn't collapse, which is great. That's what the procedure was meant to do. That was probably one of the worst parts, was having this paranoia for like a year after the surgery, and I still get it sometimes, but not nearly as often as I did after the surgery. I get pretty paranoid with any pain in my chest. Next day, my mom's like, honey, I think it's time you take a shower. And she was right. I needed a shower. I had been putting it off because of all the bandages and having to wash my hair. I couldn't even do this motion because lifting my arms up really hurt everywhere. So my mom helped me shower. A few days pass, I'm ready for school. So the night before I go to school, I didn't think this was gonna be that big of a deal, but it kind of was. I had to take off my bandages because it had been long enough. I forgot how many days they told me I had to wait, probably like 5 or something, before I took off my bandages from my surgery. Let me tell you, they were on very tightly. The glue of the bandage, I don't know what it was very strong. So removing them was very, very painful, especially since that spot was sensitive. We ended up using like cream to soften up the adhesion. That was a painful process. Going to school, I was convinced that I had to make this physics lab because I would say that I pushed myself pretty hard in school. So physics was at the end of the day, but I also didn't want to miss my morning classes because I had already missed those, and it was just all this stuff. And so I ended up going to school for a full day, which was not a good idea because I was exhausted by the end of it. Walking that much on my newly adhered lungs was a lot of work. I actually got a pass for the elevator. I had to walk up 4 flights of stairs to get to one of my classes. But I was so insecure about not looking like I was injured because it looked like I was fine, right? I didn't have any broken bones, any casts or anything. So I was so scared of running into someone on the elevator and them being like judging me, not even me getting in trouble, just judging me. I was so scared of that happening. I walked up 4 flights of stairs with this, everything that had just happened. I walked up 4 flights of stairs. I get to my religion class and I'm just like, and my teacher's like, are you okay? So by the end of the day, I was just exhausted. I ended up, I think, only going to school for a half day the next day, or I might not have even gone to school the next day because I was just so tired. It did take some time, but eventually I got back into the swing of things. This was such a traumatic event, and I thought the hardest part would be surgery and all that stuff, which that was a very hard part. But honestly, the recovery, both mental and physical, was probably the hardest part. Physical recovery, it hurts, it takes a long time. You don't really know when your body is back to complete normal, so it's like a lot of slowing yourself back into your normal routine. Like working out again was scary for me. Wrestling with my brothers and stuff, I was like not sure when I should be able to do that and stuff like that, you know, just like normal stuff that I used to do. But also the mental part. I had to create a reason in my head for why this happened to me. My lung collapsed spontaneously. They called, the term for it was a spontaneous pneumothorax. So there was literally no good reason for why this was happening to me. That whole process of trying to figure out why this happened to me, what I did to deserve this, and all that kind of stuff took a toll on my mental health. Cool. So this all happened at junior years. Junior year, this was second semester. Once that came to an end, I have a summer swim team, so swimming was very difficult for me because I was so scared. It did take some getting used to. I'm very much used to it by now, but getting back into it was scary. So I swam all summer, and then I had my high school swim team, which is a lot more rigorous than my summer swim team, so that was also scary. Got through it, thanks to my friends and family for supporting me through all that. But also my senior year, I took creative writing, and in my creative writing class, we had to write a memoir about our lives. We could do any aspect of our lives. So I decided to write a memoir about my lung surgery, and that was just a huge therapeutic process for me. Getting to share that with my teacher, getting to share that with my classmates and my parents and family and friends, because I ended up sharing it with everybody to show them like exactly what was going through my head through that time, was just a huge therapeutic thing. So I highly recommend that to anyone who's going through this. Like doing some sort of creative outlet so that you can really express how you're truly feeling and stuff, so that you feel like you're seen and heard. Then I ended up using that for part of that memoir for my college essays. I remember someone telling me that I was lucky that this happened to me, because I had something to write about in my college essay, and that's crazy. But it was definitely a positive, one of the very few positives that came out of this situation. For a long time, my life and my mental health kind of circulated around my lung surgery. People in my life that aren't really in my life anymore started to tell me that I was talking about my lungs too much and that it was getting kind of annoying, and they would actually kind of make fun of me for it, and that ended up being really taking a toll on myself because I was like, I'm not trying to use this for attention. This was a huge traumatic event in my life and I'm just trying to get past it somehow, and talking about it is how I get past things. So when someone was using that against me, that was really hard to go through. But I ended up making my memoir. I wrote my college essay about it. I also created an art piece, which is behind me. It's right there. So it's a screen print, and it's just ribs and it says breathe right above it. Creating that was also a huge thing for me. So screen prints is like you carve basically your own stamp, so you make the same thing multiple times, like with different paints, etc. So I ended up giving that to some of my friends and family, and I'm just really proud of it, and I can always think of that as representing that time in my life. So I highly recommend, if you're a creative person, or even if you're not a creative person, writing about it, creating, doing some sort of art thing, just doing what you need to do to express this trauma in some sort of way, because keeping it all up here is not good for you in any way, shape, or form. It is now December of 2019. I am 18 years old. It has been 2 years since this happened to me, and I have to say that I thought it was going to consume my life for the longest time, but it has not. It has shown me what a strong person I am. It has shown me the real friends in my life, the love I'm surrounded by from my true friends and family, and it just kind of showed me the strength I have within me, because that was a moment of testing my strength. And I also would like to think that it made my relationship with God that much closer, because I am religious. He was there with me that night in the hospital room before I had my surgery. He was there, and I feel like this event strengthened our relationship. Thank you for watching. If you made it this far, my name is Mairead. This isn't all that represents me as a person. I am so much more than my lung collapse story, but I figured it was time to show. I hope this has helped someone out there going through the same thing. I don't normally do videos like this, but if you liked it and you want more videos like this, just let me know. I normally do vlogs with a lot of jump cuts and sound effects and stuff like that. If you're interested in that, make sure you subscribe. Like this video. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for listening. See you guys in the next one.